Now, I love this motorcycle, but let's talk about the dash for a second because it's basically a little bit of a time capsule. I mean, it tells me how fast I'm going, and it might even show me a warning light if it's feeling a little bit emotional, but that's about it. And the funny thing is, this bike is the underappreciated backbone of the channel. It's the mule, it's the camera bike, it carries all the crap, and it never complains, it never asks for attention, and it absolutely doesn't get the attention that it deserves. Until today. So look at this. It's still running a display that feels like it predates smartphones entirely, which is ironic because this bike does more real work around here than most of the shiny new stuff that shows up. So today, I'm finally gonna give it some well-earned love. Not by changing what the Hyperstrada is, but by updating that one thing that really shows its age. I'm going to add a modern smart display and dash cam system with the new INNOVV N2 smart system. So this old, honest Italian workhorse can finally have navigation, some video recording, and a cockpit that lives in the same decade as the rest of it. So let's think of this as less an upgrade and more as an overdue recognition. Because if any bike deserves a little modern tech, I think it's this one. All right, so what actually is the INNOVV N2? Because this is the point where a lot of these systems either sound cooler than they are or way more complicated than they need to be. At its core, the N2 is a smart riding system. It's a dedicated screen for your bike that gives you CarPlay or Android Auto, plus front and rear dash cams, all rolled into one unit. So instead of hanging your phone out in the wind and hoping vibration doesn't kill it, this becomes the bike's brain and the phone just feeds it information. When you open the box, it's very clear this is meant to be permanent. You've got the display, the camera modules, GPS, wiring harness, and a whole pile of mounting option. And that's both the good news and the warning label. It wants a proper install. The N2 needs a switched power source, meaning it needs power that turns on and off with the bike, and not something that's hot all the time, so you can't just plug it into the battery. On a newer bike, that's easy. You just tap into an accessory port and call it a day. But this bike, however, is old enough that Ducati basically said, good luck, and walked away. So I had to get creative, and I tied into the license plate light, because if we're ranking electrical priorities, the thing illuminating my license plate is probably the least important component on this entire motorcycle. But it is switched and it is reliable, and if something does go wrong, I'm not suddenly stranded on the side of the road wondering why my fuel pump just quit. But once power is sorted, the rest of the install is just thoughtful routing. Cameras front and rear, GPS somewhere clean. I just stuck it underneath the seat. And taking your time so nothing gets pinched or stressed. This is one of those installs where calm hands save future headaches. Mounting the screen is where I deviated from the instructions a little bit. INNOVV includes a whole bunch of mounting solutions, a bunch of different handlebar mounts for all sorts of different size handlebars and all sorts of different L brackets. But instead of putting brackets on top of brackets like a bad game of Jenga, I just mounted the ball directly into the handlebar clamp. I think it's cleaner, it's a little more solid, and it looks like it belongs there instead of looking like an afterthought. And I think that's kind of the theme with this whole setup. You're not just adding a gadget, you're trying to integrate something into the bike. And when you do take the extra time to do it right, it stops feeling like an add-on and starts feeling like it was always supposed to be there. Now, once everything is powered up and mounted, this is where the INNOVV N2 really starts to make sense. Up front, you have a 5.99-inch display, which is obviously 6 inches. I don't know who we're trying to impress here with the decimals, but it's a proper usable screen size. It's big enough to read navigation at a glance and small enough that it doesn't look like you've strapped a Temu iPad to the handlebars. Brightness is rated at around 800 nits, and that's one of those specs that actually matters. In real life, it means you can see the screen in direct sunlight without doing the weird helmet lean and squint at stoplights. And it works with gloves. Glare is reasonable, it's controlled, and it feels like it was designed to live on a motorcycle, not borrowed from an iPhone. Everything runs through Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is really the backbone of the whole experience. You get the maps that you already trust, clean turn-by-turn navigation for whatever app you like to use, and easy to access music or podcasts. The N2 is also running a dual dash cam system with front and rear cameras. It records using H.265 compression, which is the tech way of saying you get good quality video without your memory card having a meltdown. Now, you can run up to 256 gig cards. It loops automatically and it just quietly does its thing in the background. If you need a clip, and this is something I really like about it, the system has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so you can pull footage straight to your phone without having to dig for your SD card and dropping them into the abyss underneath your gas tank. Now, GPS is another spec that actually translates to real life. The N2 uses a 10 Hertz GPS module, which means it updates your position 10 times a second instead of once. So your speed data and route tracking looks smooth and believable, not like the bike randomly teleported you across 3 lanes. And if you ever need footage for insurance or proof, that accuracy actually matters. The whole system is rated at IP67, which means it's fully dustproof and completely happy in heavy rain and road spray. Not that I'm planning to ride this thing underwater, but weather and vibration are very much part of the design brief here. And if you want to expand it later, the system also supports extended tire pressure monitoring sensors. That's one of those features you don't think about until it quietly saves you from riding 50 miles on a tire that's trying to ruin your day. Instead of stacking gadgets and mounts, what you end up with is one integrated system that handles navigation, media, GPS logging, and front and rear recording. It's not about chasing specs for the sake of it. It's about making an older bike easier to live with, easier to trust, and a whole lot more modern without losing what makes it special. Now, one quick note on the setup. I did opt to run the TPMS sensors with the N2, and I really like having that information right there in my line of sight. But just make sure that the brake caliper's clear before you ride away. Spin the wheel and look closely and save yourself from discovering that problem the loud, expensive way as you roll out of your driveway. In my personal situation, the TPMS sensor cleared fine on the rear, but on the front with the big giant brakes and calipers on this bike, the TPMS sensor hits the brake caliper.
Being totally honest, I don't know if this screen right here, the default screen, is really all that valuable. I already have that information. I know how fast I'm going. Yeah, that's fine. What I think is valuable is, first, we do have the live dash cam view, and most specifically, the rear view cam view. These mirrors, I mean, I do like looking at my shoulders, but sometimes motorcycle mirrors do get a little ridiculous. Sometimes I want to look at other things going on behind me. And the dash cam helps us. This is a great feature. But realistically, the feature I think we're all going to want to use the most is going to be the CarPlay feature. And that's Canyon Chasers podcast, greatest podcast in the world. If you're not subscribed, you should give it a listen. I talked to Danielle with Alpine Stars. She's amazing, by the way. All right, so back to the on topic. This is the screen probably most of us are going to be using, right? We're going to be using some Google navigation with our audio controls. And you can see how easy it is to control the device with my nice thick winter gloves on. I want CarPlay. I want navigation. The number one thing I use or I attach to motorcycles over my whole riding career has been a GPS device. I want navigation help. I want live traffic update. The great advantage of these things it's like a modern cell phone is so expensive, right? $1,000 anymore, and they're not going to get any cheaper. And it makes me nervous taking the thing with my banking information and sticking it to my handlebars. And I absolutely love how I can just use it with my gloves. And I get all this information, right? I get my mapping, my navigation, as well as my entertainment. And it all pairs to my Cardo. It's really seamless and intuitive. I love it. And because it is CarPlay, it works just like CarPlay. You have all your apps, your texting. I mean, you shouldn't be reading text while you're riding, but they will read them to you in your helmet. Some of the motorcycles that I've tested, they do have CarPlay built into them, but they don't let you touch the screen as soon as the motorcycle's rolling. You have to use you're kind of locked into what's on the screen. I'm having a hard time finding something not to like about this. This isn't a hard sell. Putting the Canyon Chasers podcast on screen was not an accident, I must confess. I planned that. Please forgive me. Okay, I do have something I don't like about it, but it's not this device's fault at all. And that's on a bike with big giant brakes like these sport bikes, the tire pressure monitoring system doesn't clear the calipers. I've had that problem on multiple bikes. Again, not this device's fault. Your motorcycle could have a totally different setup and it might be completely fine. I would just encourage you to check before ordering.
I love having real navigation on a dedicated screen. I love that the cameras are always recording in the background without me thinking about them. And I really love that my phone gets to stay in my pocket instead of being bolted to the bars and slowly shaken to death. But maybe the biggest thing for me is what it did for the bike as a whole. Like, it brought the Hyperstrada into the modern era without changing what the bike is. The cockpit finally feels current, it feels relevant. It feels like this bike caught up with how we actually use it. All right, let's land this. If you want to check out the INNOVV N2 for your own bike, I've got a link and a coupon code down in the description, or you can scan the cute little QR code. Use that link, use the code, it helps support the channel, and it doesn't cost you a single dollar extra. That support is what makes installs like this and giveaways like this possible. And that's right, I'm giving one of these away. You could get hooked up with a full N2 system, and this time we're doing the giveaway through the Canyon Chasers email list. I know, email lists sound about as exciting as a tire pressure lecture, but hear me out. First, it actually lets me contact the winner directly instead of shouting into the comment section and hoping the algorithm delivers a message like a carrier pigeon. Second, it means you'll actually hear about future giveaways, rides, and projects without relying on YouTube to remember that you exist. So here's how to enter. Hit the link in the description, drop your email in, and tell me what motorcycle you ride, and that's it, you're entered. No quizzes, no hoops, no nonsense, and I 100% promise no spam. I'll randomly pick a winner, reach out by email, and ship one of these to you. And just to be clear, I don't spam, I don't sell the list, and I don't send you 12 emails a week asking you to buy energy drinks or crypto. If I ever start doing that, you have my full permission to unsubscribe and judge me harshly. I send maybe 5 or 6 emails a year with updates, writing tips, and other cool opportunities that crop up along the year. Anyway, huge thanks to INNOVV for sponsoring the video and making the giveaway possible. I genuinely like what the system did for the bike. I think it works great. It works better than I hoped it would. I think it looks fantastic, and I'm excited to see one of you give your bike the same modern treatment. All the links and details are below, so thanks so much for watching. Ride on and ride well.